Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea, welcome back to your Chelsea news. Liam Delap and Essugo have been confirmed. Chelsea have made a bid for HUGO EKITIKE. Jadon Sancho is being sent back to Manchester United. Chelsea have released a list of loanees for next season. Joao Felix to Benfica still looks like it's happening. Chelsea have also released the striker dynamic they're trying to achieve next season. And lastly, Mike Maignan has had contact from Chelsea as we want to purchase him, meaning Robert Sanchez could be sold. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything has been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments.
And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k by the end of 2025.
Kicking things off, Chelsea have confirmed the arrival of Dario Essugo. He has penned an 8-year contract and the fee is 22.5 million euros. I am so excited about the arrival of Essugo and I can't wait to see him play in the Club World Cup and going into next season. For me, this is huge. This is a signing that is finally going to give Caicedo a breather if it's needed, or a rotation within our midfield. Our midfield next season is absolutely stacked with Caicedo, Enzo, Palmer. You've also got Santos coming back. You're going to have Esteval. You've got the winger situation. Our midfield is going to be so stacked, and we're going to have a lot of variety in terms of competing in all the competitions, giving everyone minutes, having a nice rotation, keeping everyone fit. And I'm hoping that Essugo is one of those players that fits Maresca's profile. From the clips that I've seen of him, from the highlights that I've seen of him, the more I've looked into Dario Essugo, he's very young with a high ceiling, bags of potential, seems like a typical Chelsea signing under the new ownership. But I am super excited that it's officially been confirmed. We know this has happened for a long time, right? But it's been officially confirmed in the summer window. 22.5 million euros is nothing really when you think about the sort of money that's thrown around in the transfer market. But I'm super excited to have Essugo here because, like I said, I think one of the main concerns for a lot of Chelsea fans across this season just gone is the amount of minutes that Caicedo played. Played 38 out of 38 league games, which is incredible. He's got an incredible engine. However, there have been times this season where we're like, oh, he can't get booked because we get a suspension and we will fold like deck chairs without him. Or what if he picks up an injury? It's one of those things where at least now we can actually have some rotation, whether he partners Caicedo and you have Essugo and Caicedo together, whether it is a straight swap as a rotation, I have no idea. But I'm very, very excited about Essugo coming to Chelsea. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Do you think 22.5 million is a bargain? Do you think Essugo is going to be a great Chelsea player? Do you think he's going to get a lot of minutes? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Ben Jacobs has reported Chelsea move is now complete with only a formal announcement pending. Chelsea's top striker target, Liam Delap, will sign a 6-year contract. Again, the more I see this, the more excited I get. We've got Essugo confirmed, Delap confirmed, just waiting for the Chelsea announcement. Curious to know if he's going to be the number 9 or the 19. I believe he's going to be 19 because that was his number at Ipswich. Mate, £30 million, 6-year deal. This guy, what an absolute bargain. What an absolute bargain. Release clause has come in clutch because if it wasn't for that, we'd be paying well over the odds, 50, 60 million for a player of his caliber and a player of, English stature, played in the Premier League. He's had a very good season at Ipswich. I keep saying this. Good season at Ipswich, 12 goals, couple of assists. Yes, a couple of penalties, which you won't be taking at Chelsea because we have Cole Palmer. However, he's playing for a relegated side, or a side that was going to be relegated and then got relegated very early on. Don't create nowhere near as much chances. He's an Enzo Maresca player. He's got a relationship with Maresca. I think this is a really good signing. Now, of course, Chelsea are going in for a second striker in this window, and we are going to talk about it later on in the video in terms of the dynamics that Chelsea are looking to achieve next season. Of course, we don't want Delap to be the main number 9 for a lot of fans. Some fans are happy with that, and I respect your opinion. I respect your views on that. For a lot of Chelsea fans, we want that Gyökeres or that Osman, that absolute killer in front of goal, to come in and sort of have Delap as a backup, Jackson as rotation, and kind of see how that front three works. But I'm super happy that Delap's been announced. No, it's one of those things the writing's been on the wall for a long time, linked since January, having this sort of cat and mouse of wages and Champions League football and United and Newcastle and Everton, all these other clubs were interested. But it all come down to Liam Delap choosing Chelsea with Champions League football. And Maresca had a very important part to play in this. There is something I'm going to share with you now on the Liam Delap move, which Enzo Maresca kind of said to Liam, which helped him persuade the move to Chelsea. Kieran Gill has reported that Enzo Maresca personally pitched the Chelsea project to Liam Delap. The word is Delap was even told to envision himself leading the line in Chelsea's system while watching the Conference League final, with one source saying that he liked what he saw. This is really clever from Maresca, and hey, look, it worked at the end of the day, so props. If Liam Delap is looking at himself leading the Chelsea line in that Conference League final, the first half he's thinking, no service. No service at all. There's nothing that Jackson could have really done. Try and drop deeper, get the ball, whatever. The second half, he would have been licking his lips with the chances we created. Licking his lips. He'd have been all over that Jackson first goal. He would have definitely buried that one-on-one that Jackson messed up with a heavy touch. Well, I'm just putting it out there. I think he would have finished that. Or he would have squared it and we would have had another goal. I think that if he's looking that as like of what I could bring to Chelsea and how I would fit in and how I would score goals, of course that's going to tip him over the edge. And then obviously if he's watching that game, envisioning him as the number 9 and then we go lift a trophy, that only reinforces to him of like, yeah, I can win silverware at Chelsea Football Club. They're on the up now. They've had their rebuild. They're going through it. It's a project for the long term. They're getting back to where they were, winning trophies. They won a European competition. They're playing Champions League. It ticks all the boxes for Delap. He's got a big pay rise. We've got him on the cheap because of a release clause. I think it's just an absolute win-win for everyone. And even if he's a player that doesn't hit the ground running but does develop in the next few years, it's still a bargain. £30 million for an English striker is very cheap. And yeah, I'm just super excited to see him play at the Club World Cup. That's why we bought him so quickly. We wanted, that first signing before the Club World Cup. Liam Delap has a bit of a dilemma. Does he play the under-21s in the England that he's been called up to, or does he play the Club World Cup? Chelsea are trying to persuade him to play the Club World Cup because they see that as a major tournament compared to the under-21s, and they feel like if he performs well across the season, he will get the first team England call-up. And I need to make an apology. In the video where I spoke about Delap and the England call-up, I was just all over the place. I meant the under-21s. I did put a little pop-up on the screen, but a lot of people corrected me, and rightly so, that it wasn't the first team call-up, it was the under-21s. However, we move. Record Portugal have reported that talks are intensifying between Benfica and Chelsea over Joao Felix. His return to Portugal has never been so close. Now, a lot of people have conflicting opinions about Record Portugal, and look, I totally get it. Like I've always said to you, I react to headlines. I'm not a reporter. But we know that Joao Felix is more than likely going to leave Chelsea in the summer window, which makes me sad. I like him as a player. A lot of Chelsea fans do. Felt like he deserved more game time, and I totally resonate with that. If he goes to Benfica, there are also talks and reports that it's a loan to Benfica, not a permanent sale, because we want at least 40 million for him, and Benfica don't want to pay that, which is fair enough. It is what it is. He's not really played a lot of football this season. He's been across 2 clubs in Europe, so wants to run a form or whatever to kind of justify that £40 million price tag, or €40 million price tag. So I would take a loan. I want to keep him at Chelsea, but like I said earlier in the video, our midfield is absolutely stacked next season with incomings, and with the team that we currently have developing across the season under Maresca. It's a very exciting time to be a Chelsea fan and for Chelsea Football Club with the project. For the last few years, we've been looking at this going, we don't want to trust the process. We need some experience, blah, blah, blah. And we still do. But we've now got to the point where we've seen the development, we've seen the progress. From the Poch season to the Maresca season, we've got another European trophy, completed the set, we're in the Champions League again. We're now using this window to strengthen in very key areas because the squad is sort of stabilised now. And now next season, we're in all competitions. They've got the Club World Cup, in a few weeks, which is going to be awesome to watch. We're back. We're back. I'm not saying anything like big ego, whatever, but we are back to being Chelsea. We are just on the right path of getting back to where we were. So I just look at the circumstances, the way things are developing in this transfer window. I wouldn't be surprised if Joao Felix is sent on loan to Benfica. It means he's technically still a Chelsea player, which, lessens the blow. But that does mean that we won't be using him next season, which is a bit of a kick in the teeth, for me personally at least. I would love to know your thoughts down below about Joao Felix. Would you keep him? Would you sell him? Do you think a loan to Benfica could work in his favour? Very curious to know your thoughts. L'Equipe have reported that Mamadou Sarr will soon be made official by Chelsea, and Maresca will evaluate him at the Club World Cup before deciding if he stays or goes back to Strasbourg on loan. Now, again, with L'Equipe, we don't really know if they're either on the money or they're massively miss. Just what I wanted to talk about this very, very quickly with you guys. Mamadou Sarr, he's had a good season at Strasbourg, a development season. Do I think that he will make it at Chelsea? I think potentially, but again, we are so stacked this season with incomings and, whether it's loanees coming back or us going and buying players this summer, it could be a case of a lot of players are going to get evaluated at the Club World Cup. Maresca's going to have a very tough decisions across the park in terms of who we keep, who we loan, who we sell. And I could see Mamadou Sarr going out on loan again to Strasbourg for another development season. That's just me personally. I could be horribly wrong. We could actually make it official, keep him at the club because he absolutely blows people away in the Club World Cup. But I would like to know your thoughts about Mamadou Sarr. I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't know anything too in-depth. Only sort of highlights, little bits about him. I know that he can be a very, very good player. He is still developing, again, very young, typical Chelsea type of signing. I personally feel like another loan at Strasbourg or another season at Strasbourg will do him the world of good. It gives us, as Chelsea, another season to kind of improve on what we built last year without adding too many new names into the pot. We can keep that core foundation with the strengthening in the areas that we really need. And then we can sort of rotate certain positions throughout the season and see how we get on. And again, reassess and go, actually, do we need a new defender after bringing in whoever we do? Do we have the strongest of midfields? Do we need to loan some more people out? Are we happy with this? The wingers, the forwards, as a whole, as a team. So, yeah. I just wanted to speak about Mamadou Sarr very, very briefly. I would love to know your thoughts down below. Do you think that Chelsea should keep him? Do you think he should go on loan to Strasbourg for another development season? Very curious to know your thoughts. S. Johnson Sport has reported that Kendry Paez is expected to go to Strasbourg and Matisse Amugu is going to join him. Other youngsters in line for a loan are Mark Guiu, Aaron Anselmino and Mike Penders. A loan is also being seen as an option for David Datro Fofana. And again, we've spoke about this many, many times with our huge squad, with the youngsters with high potential, bags of, high ceiling, bags of potential. This does not surprise me one bit, and we kind of knew this was going to happen anyway. We were already told that Amugu was going to play very limited minutes for Chelsea. We bought him early because we could get him cheaper. He is going to go on loan next season. Kendry Paez was one that a lot of Chelsea fans, myself included, are very excited to see because he's been at Cobham in around London and Strasbourg training since the January window, I think when the Brazilian league finished, so he could adapt to European football. Obviously, the big focus is on Esteval Willian, and we know that he's going to be part of our first team squad. But with Kendry Paez, it was kind of like question marks. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go on loan? And I think it's a very good move to put him on loan for next season, personally. And then obviously we could see Amugu develop over at Strasbourg. Strasbourg fans must be loving it because they're going to get some absolute world-class talent coming. When it comes to the other loans, Mark Guiu, as much as I want to see him play so many minutes for Chelsea, I think a loan is probably the best option for him. We know that Ipswich are heavily linked with Guiu because of the whole Delap. They basically wanted a swap, essentially. Like, we pay for Delap, they get Guiu on loan. I think he would do incredibly well in the Championship, and I think it would really develop his game. It's a tough physical league. Some say it's the hardest league in the world. So many games, so many teams all fighting for things throughout the whole season. I think he could really develop his game there and make a name for himself in the Championship. I think it'd be fantastic. Aaron Anselmino, again, we kind of knew that we got him from Boca Juniors. He was very young. He was going to kind of be at Cobham and learn and just train with the first team that we currently got across the half the season we had him. He was going to go out alone. We knew that. And Mike Penders, again, we know this guy's got an incredible potential. He's already developing so quickly. And we're going to speak about more of the goalkeeping side of things a little bit later in the video, but Mike Penders going on loan also makes sense because he's extremely young. Even though he is fantastic for his age, he is going to get better and better. So the one that's interesting for me is David Datro Fofana because he had a season-ending injury midway through the season. We recalled the loan. Basically, it was terminated because he was injured, and they were like, well, there's no point keeping him here. He can't play. So we'll bring him back to Cobham, where he's been, seeing out his recovery. A lot of people, myself included, at a stage were thinking we might just sell him because we've heard nothing about him. He played a handful of times for Chelsea. I thought he's very, very raw, but got a lot of potential. And if we could hone that in, he would be a really good forward. Someone that, at times this season, we could have just put up front to see what he could do. Same with Guiu. Obviously, he had that injury or whatnot. So it was a shame in that front. But I'm fully... it's not a surprise that Fofana is also going on loan. I fully back all of these. I think it makes a lot of sense with Chelsea moving in the transfer market the way they are and these players going out on loan. S. Johnson Sport and The Athletic have also reported that Leslie Ugochukwu is well liked and his loan at Southampton is viewed positively. But Chelsea are now well stocked in midfield and believe he will generate a lot of interest. This is so bittersweet. I liked Ugochukwu. Again, injuries played a part. Him and Chukwuemeka, basically, a lot of injuries played a part of them getting first team football, and then other players within the squad developing and showcasing why they needed to be number one. Ugochukwu obviously went on loan to Southampton. He had a bit of a spat with the Southampton manager. He was like, "You're not playing me. I want to play football." And I know a few Southampton fans. Every time Ugochukwu's played, he's just looked levels above, and people are like, "He's really good. We need to keep hold of him." I think that the writing's on the wall for him, unfortunately. The midfield is well stacked for next season, especially with having loanees come back. We're buying some more reinforcements. I just think, unfortunately, as much as it pains me that Ugochukwu is surplus to requirements, we will either loan him out until there's interest, or he will generate interest and we can sell him for a profit, which is a shame because I would love to have seen him play more in a Chelsea shirt. However, we are well stacked. He's not, when you realistically think about it, is he going to push him for the first team? No. The likes of Santos, Caicedo, Essugo, Enzo, Palmer, that's just the central of the park where he mainly plays. He's not going to get in really. So it'd be interesting to see if he's loaned out for another season or if he is sold, and it'd be very interesting to know how much we are going to ask for Ugochukwu. So very curious to know your thoughts about him down below in the comments. Do you want us to keep him? Do you think a loan makes sense, or would you be happy to sell him because he has a surplus to requirements as of right now? Another report from S. Johnson Sport and Athletics saying that Chelsea are not considering Jarrad Branthwaite right now. This is very interesting. A lot of conflicting reports over the last week or so saying, we're going in for a centre-back. We know the targets are Branthwaite, Mark Guéhi, and also Jarrell Hato, the defender at Ajax. And there was a lot of links and interest around Jarrad Branthwaite, especially in the last week. And now it's looked like we're not looking at him. I personally feel like our number one target for that centre-back position is Mark Guéhi. That's what I think we are really going to go for. That's where I think we're going to be spending the money. That's where I think we're going to spend the most time in the negotiations. We are going to try and get Mark Guéhi, and I would be more than happy with Guéhi. The one thing that a lot of us have had a conversation in the comment section is Branthwaite is a left-footed centre-back. Playing two left-footed centre-backs and having Colwell and Branthwaite doesn't confuse me. I'd say it intrigues me because it could either work very well or not work at all. Now, obviously, there are clubs and there are centre-back partnerships that are both left-footed that have worked very well. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but I feel like when you have someone like Mark Guéhi who's right-footed, can play on that right-hand side, can be, he's good on the ball, good in the air, good defensive IQ, young, but played a lot of Premier League experience. I think it makes a lot more sense. Yes, we're going to be paying a premium for him because Palace are very hard historically to negotiate with, but I feel like it makes a lot more sense. And if we can't get Mark Guéhi, we'll then go for a Braithwaite or a Hato. That's just my thoughts about it. But again, always curious to know your thoughts. I feel like I'm rattling off this news because there is so much to get through and I don't want this to be an hour-long video. But I want to know your thoughts on Branthwaite. Would you go for him? Would you go for Mark Guéhi? Would you go for Hato? How much would you willingly spend on Branthwaite? Or do you feel that's a good move that Chelsea are not interested in right now? Let me know in the comments. I think it's probably a smart move because, like I said, I feel like the main target is Guéhi. That if we can't get Guéhi, it will be Branthwaite. And if we can't get Branthwaite, it will be Hato. We may even just buy Hato as well because he can play on the left-hand side as well as centrally. And we know that we are screaming out for some cover on that left-hand side for Cucurella because he's playing so many minutes. Yes, Gusto could play on the left. Gusto last season, if we're all honest with ourselves, was absolutely abysmal compared to the season before. Reece James is staying fit now. We've also got Gusto that could play on the right. We've also got Ashimpong who could play on the right. And he could play centrally as well. It's just that left-hand side for me, there is a big hole for cover. So Hato would make a lot of sense because he could play both. Keeping Vega would, but he doesn't want to play on the left. He wants to play more centrally. It looks like he's going to be sold this summer, which is a very big shame in my opinion. So it makes a lot of sense why we're not considering Branthwaite right now. But I'd love to know your thoughts. David Ornstein has reported breaking news. Jadon Sancho will leave Chelsea this summer. An agreement couldn't be reached on personal terms. Chelsea will pay Manchester United £5 million to send him back. For me personally, this hurts a lot because I wanted to keep Sancho. I think he can offer so much to this squad, especially with the improvements being made. That left wing position, we definitely have to go out and buy someone now because Sancho's going back. Yes, Madueke can play there. Yes, Neto can play there, but they also play on the right-hand side. We are going to have Esteval coming in, which does reinforce the right-hand side, and it gives us a bit more flexibility on that left-hand side. Mudryk can't play for the foreseeable future. Sancho's going back. Now, yes, Sancho had a very hit and miss season. He started incredibly well. He went for a dip of form, and then he ended the season pretty decently, right? Scored a goal, obviously, in the Conference League final. Absolute world. He scored some good goals this season. I feel like his dynamic and what he brings to the table just fits Maresca's system. It gives that dynamism where we need to change a game from, someone like Madueke to Sancho, just wildly different players in terms of the dynamic on the pitch. However, something I did mention quite a lot, and I knew that this would happen, is this the personal terms. Jadon Sancho is on a bag at Manchester United. It's one of the perks of being a Manchester United player. They pay their players extremely well or extortionate money. That's just what they do. Jadon Sancho is not going to take like a 150, 200 grand a week pay drop to fit in our wage structure. He's just not going to do that. He's on something like 275, 300 grand a week at Manchester United. We aren't going to match that. We just weren't ever going to match that. So it was a case of Sancho being like, are you willing to drop down to, I don't know, 140 grand a week? And to be honest, if I was to ask any of you working right now, if your boss come to you and said, you know, you can stay here on this sort of money, and I know you don't really like your job, or you can go across the road and get a job where you really like, but it's a third of the pay, you kind of be like, oh, okay, cool. Man United have also made it very clear that Sancho has no future there, that they will be selling him this summer, but it's just that wage packet he's going to have to readjust his valuation of what he's willing to willing to have. Because again, it's the Man United trap. When you leave United, it's very rare you're going to go to another club, unless you're in red hot form, that's also going to pay that sort of wage packet that they pay. So I'm also happy that Chelsea dug their heels in. We've seemed to have learnt our lessons with Lukaku and Raheem Sterling with these massive, massive wages. We've done very well to reduce the wage bill and everyone on these centre-fied wages. We're then giving people pay rises that they're deserving. You know, your Caicedos, your Jacksons, your Palmers, that are obviously climbing that ladder, and they're more than happy to do that. It's incentivised. Obviously, Chelsea have said they're willing to break the wage structure for the right opportunity and the right player. I back that. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's got to make sense in the deal for it to happen. And me personally, I don't think it makes sense in Jadon Sancho's situation. 25 mil to buy him is very, very cheap, but paying him 300 grand or 275 grand a week just doesn't sit right with me personally. I know it's not our money. That's just my thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts about Sancho. Is it right that we pay the 5 million and send him back? Or would you have liked to have kept him and maybe paid him a little bit more than our wage structure allows? S. Johnson Sport and The Athletic have also reported that Chelsea have now made a formal inquiry for HUGO EKITIKE. However, they are not prepared to meet Frankfurt's £84.3 million valuation. Look, I'm warming to Ekitike, I'm not going to lie. I'm warming to Ekitike, and there's a reason why. There's another report we're going to talk about just after this, which is Chelsea releasing the dynamic they want within their strike force next season. And it does make a lot of sense. However, myself and a lot of other Chelsea fans, we want that clinical striker. Ekitike is versatile. He could play on the wide areas. He could drop a bit deeper. He's not an out-and-out target man. £84 million is a ludicrous amount of money for a player like Ekitike. When you have Gyökeres and Osimhen available for like £20 million cheaper. It makes no sense in my mind personally. I would just be like, okay, cool. We like the player. He's great. Like I said, 22 goals, 12 assists in 48 games. He's had a very good season over in the Bundesliga. I've also said many times, it doesn't really translate into the Premier League for Chelsea when you look at the likes of Werner, Nkunku and Havertz and players like that. But 84 million is way too much. Now, Frankfurt have said that they're willing to do like a flexible payment structure. Still doesn't soften the blow. That's a lot of money to pay for a player who's young, still developing. Obviously, he will have his place within the squad for sure. But I'd rather pay 20 million less, go get an absolute clinical goal machine in Gyökeres or Osimhen and pay them a little bit more in wages and be done with it. Because then you've got, you know, an Osimhen or a Gyökeres, and then you've got a Delap, and then you've got a Jackson. Them three rotating, unbelievable strike force, and it gives us loads of dynamism in terms of how we want to play in that sort of attack, final third. Essentially, you've got Delap, who could be an understudy of a goal machine. You've got Jackson, who's trying to learn off of the pair of them and actually has some competition to step his game up. Obviously, Jackson can also play on that left hand side, which gives us another layer of opportunities. Really, I think that makes a lot more sense. However, the more I look, read, and see of Ekitike, I do like the player. I think it makes a lot of sense. I just don't agree with the £84 million. It's just wild money if you're asking my opinion. But I would love to know your thoughts on Ekitike. Chelsea made a formal inquiry. They're genuinely interested. They want to go get someone like Ekitike. However, they are being smart and saying we're not paying the £84 million, which is very, very unlike Chelsea. Normally, we would just pay what the asking price is to get the deal done. Looks like they're taking a little bit more time on this, saying we really like the player, but 84 million is way too much. So curious to know your thoughts. Would you go for Ekitike if we can reduce the price? Or would you happily pay the 84 million that Frankfurt are asking? Or would you rather just not go for him at all and go for another striker completely? Matt Law has reported that Chelsea expect Liam Delap and Nicholas Jackson to compete for the out-and-out striker position, with HUGO EKITIKE or another versatile forward providing a further option from deep or a wide position. This is where context is everything. You can understand why Chelsea are so interested in HUGO EKITIKE if this is what they want for their dynamics next season, where you've got competition between Delap and Jackson. In my opinion, it's Delap all day. Jackson can fight for his position. You can also play on the left. Very versatile in that sense. And I feel like he will have games where he nips Delap in terms of form, or if Delap doesn't perform as well, we've got Jackson. a forward we're familiar with over the last few seasons, but will improve with competition. I think that's glaringly obvious. When he's low on confidence, he's not firing all cylinders, he has no competition, he knows he's going to play the next game. But you can see how much he loves the club. Look at the goal that he scored in the Conference League final, how much it meant to him, how much he wanted to repay the Chelsea fans for that silly red card against Newcastle. There's no denying his passion for Chelsea Football Club. Us Chelsea fans just want him to be more clinical. We just need a 9 that can score goals. Simple as that. We have Delap. I have high expectations for him. I think he will do well in our system. But that's the dynamic they're going for. And then they see HUGO EKITIKE, who isn't a target man, but can play deeper, can play on a wide positions, to then be there in rotation to give us another option. That's where things fall into place and make a lot of sense. But would you pay £84 million for EKITIKE to have a player that's in rotation and playing slightly different? I just wouldn't do that. I would also, like I said previously, go out for that clinical goal machine. But it's very interesting to have this context around what Chelsea are thinking with the strike force, because when you read it like this, it makes a lot of sense. Of course I want a Gyökeres. Of course I want an Osimhen. We are screaming out for it, and in my opinion, this summer window is the perfect and only opportunity where that can happen. But it looks like Chelsea may, and again, I could be wrong, happy to be proved wrong, but from what I'm reading, when you put it all together and make your own opinions on it, it looks like Chelsea they've got a plan of what they want to do. However, they keep constantly saying if the opportunity arises and it makes sense, we'll break the wage structure, we'll go for these opportunities. So it could be a case that after the Club World Cup or during the Club World Cup, there is an opportunity for Osimhen, there's an opportunity for Gyökeres, and they go, do you know what? Let's go get that goal machine, reevaluate the strike force. We're happy with Jackson having competition with Delap, but can we go get that killer number 9 as well? So it could change, but currently they want those two to be fighting it out for number 1, and then they also want EKITIKE, someone like that who's very versatile, who could play a multitude of positions, to then be in rotation with them. So very curious to know your thoughts down below. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this works well in a Maresca system? Do you think that Chelsea can benefit from it next season? Or do you want to scrap that, have Delap, Jackson, and then a killer number 9, and they all just fight out for a number 1 and number 2 spot? Let me know your thoughts down below. Fabrizio Romano has reported an exclusive that Chelsea approach AC Milan to sign Mike Maignan as their new goalkeeper. Mike Maignan has still not signed a new contract at the club, and Chelsea are now aware of the situation. He's always been high on Chelsea's list with club in talks. Decision up to Milan. Kieran Gill also reported that Chelsea insiders have long said they are well stocked with talented goalkeepers. None are currently shoo-ins for the number 1, and Mike Maignan represents an opportunity for an upgrade. Chelsea fans, our prayers are being answered. Our prayers are being answered. We don't have to put up with Robert Sanchez anymore, right? And yes, credit where it's due. He's improved a lot in the second half. In 2025, he's really come on. A lot of clean sheets, a lot of game-stopping saves, and a few people, really rate him. Fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion. I personally still am in the camp that he's not a Chelsea number 1, not of the quality. He's done a job. He's done it well in the second half of the season. First half of the season, he made a lot of errors to goal. We know his distribution is not great, and we were screaming out for a new goalkeeper. Jorgensen, very similar to Sanchez, has a lot better distribution, but maybe not as comfortable with some of the shot-stopping abilities. He's still a good goalkeeper. Mike Maignan is a huge upgrade, and it's someone that Chelsea have been linked with for many transfer windows. We're talking 4, 5, maybe 6 windows, and we've never seemed to have gone for it. And I'm guessing it's because of his contract length. Now he has 12 months and under, means we can go in with a lower offer, which we're more than happy to spend, and we don't have to abide by, he's got 3 years left, so it needs to be X amount of money more. It's within that 12-month period where we can kind of offer you've got a year left, we could pay that out and then give it on the top. I hope that he doesn't run his contract down so then comes in a free agent, because that means we have to wait even longer. I really hope that Chelsea go in for Mike Maignan. He would be a huge upgrade and would slot straight in as Chelsea's number 1. And yes, Petrovic is coming back, and I want Petrovic to have a fair turn, and I want Petrovic to be the number 1 in the long term. However, until we are 100% certain that Petrovic is the guy, if we have an opportunity to buy Maignan for a fair price, he could come in and be Chelsea's number 1, and that massively upgrades our defence. Hugely impresses every Chelsea fan. Now we're a serious club again. We're going after big names, experienced names, people that have played in the Champions League. They've got experience. He's a fantastic shot stopper. I would love to see Mike Maignan in a Chelsea shirt in between the sticks. And look, if it's him and Petrovic fighting for number 1, I'm still happy with that, because Petrovic is still on the books. If it means that Sanchez gets sold, a lot of Chelsea fans will be very happy with that. And to be honest, I'll be quite happy with Sanchez out the door. Not that I don't respect what he's done for the club. I just feel overall, when you look at the whole picture, I just don't see him being at Chelsea long term. Chelsea have said that, you know, the data and this and that, he's going to be like a world-class keeper. But, you know, they're waiting for his footballing IQ to catch up with his age, because when it does, he'll be unbelievable. We haven't got time for that going into next season, in my opinion. Playing in all competitions in the Champions League now, we need someone like Mike Maignan in the sticks. Someone who's solid, assertive, good in the air, great at shot stopping. Don't know too much about his distribution. I'm assuming he can kick a ball better than Sanchez, because Sanchez is woeful at that. We could get him for a fair price. I'm super excited that Chelsea are going in for it. I would take Mike Maignan in a heartbeat. And if it means that Sanchez has to be sold, so be it. So I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below about Mike Maignan. Would you go for him? Do you think he's a good goalkeeper? Would you rather stick with Robert Sanchez? Very curious to know your thoughts down below, but I'm hoping that Chelsea can go get this deal done for a very reasonable price and we can secure a #1 goalkeeper. And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported. I know there was a lot in this video. That's why I've kind of rattled through it. A lot of Chelsea news today. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you did watch this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one. And I mean that. You are a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you hit that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.